Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning Five here on Monday, April 22nd, 2019. I am Dave Biddle, very happy to be joined by the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting, Bill Kurelic. Bill, obviously the big news for the Buckeyes happened late last week when quarterback Matthew Baldwin announced he was transferring away from the program. What was your reaction when you heard that news?
The first reaction was surprise. Not completely unexpected. I mean, as you know, Dave, you hear little things here and there that, if it doesn't work out and Justin Fields is the quarterback, what is Matthew Baldwin going to do? But even so, I was surprised. I just didn't think, even when you hear it a little bit here and there, that something like that is going to happen. To me, Dave, it's, Matthew Baldwin is literally, even if he's not the starting quarterback, which I think all of us expected even before his transfer, that Justin Fields was going to be the starting quarterback, but even if he's not the starting quarterback, he's one play away from being the starting quarterback. A high ankle sprain to Justin Fields, and Matthew Baldwin is the starting quarterback of a team that is expected to challenge for a national championship. So, that's a pretty good situation to be in when you're a freshman that has been rehabbing from injury and coming off that injury. That's a pretty good position to be in. And what other school in the country that is anywhere along the lines of Ohio State is in a position where basically you've got two guys that were really recruited by the staff on scholarship at quarterback. So, obviously now, the Buckeyes are in a situation that you don't like to be in.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, thank goodness for Chris Chugginoff, I guess. We're not giving him enough love. At least they have a scholarship quarterback that's a fifth-year senior. And, everybody at West Virginia said, oh, this guy's no good. He played a couple games for West Virginia here and there as a redshirt freshman and a third-year sophomore. But, he's improved since he's been at Ohio State. Maybe as a fifth-year senior he could be a Kenny Guyton type. We shall see. But pushing the ball forward here, where does Ohio State go from here? I know their backs are against the walls trying to add a quarterback to this roster for the 2019 season. But there are, several quarterbacks in the portal. I did a story for the site on Friday. Most of those guys are extreme long shots. But guys like Gunnar Hoak from Kentucky, there's a kid from Oklahoma State that's buried on the depth chart at quarterback. What are you hearing? Are you hearing they're going to try and add a transfer quarterback? And what names are you hearing, if any?
Well, I don't think there's any question that they're going to try to add a quarterback to the roster. But the problem is again, everybody expects Justin Fields to be the starter for the next 2 years minimum, maybe 3. And what quarterback that has a legitimate possibility of becoming a starter and a good starter is going to want to come into that situation? It's puts you behind the 8 ball. That's
right.
going to be a really tough situation. You've got Mark Pantoni, who is as good as it gets when it comes to finding all options. This staff, led by Mark Pantoni, does a great job of finding and utilizing their options. You kind of, when Urban Meyer was the coach, it was like, if we lose somebody, speaking of Urban Meyer, you get somebody just as good. And I think that's a kind of a good situation, but it's still going to be really difficult. I don't know of any specific quarterback that I would put my finger on and say, hey, that's the guy that's likely to come into Ohio State. I think it's going to be a tough situation. Do I think they'll find somebody ultimately? Yeah, I think they will. But is that someone going to be the caliber of Matthew Baldwin? That's going to be really tough to find somebody like that. And you just hope that you can find, you hope Justin Fields doesn't get hurt. That's the bottom line. And if he does, you hope Chugginoff, can hold the fort down until he gets back.
That's why I think Gunnar Hoak could be an interesting name. And just so people know, he has not even put his name in the portal yet. But you have even the Lexington Herald doing a story about how he's at least strongly considering it, and he was saying no comment when asked about it, or he still needs to think about it regarding Gunnar Hoak if he's going to transfer. For those that don't know, he is a fourth-year junior. He is from Dublin, Ohio. Played high school football at Kaufman. Was a starting quarterback there. And he's a scholarship kid at UK. So that's the type of kid we're talking about. Like he's behind Terry Wilson, who's in the same grade as they're both fourth-year juniors. Terry Wilson was a JUCO transfer. He's going to be the Wildcat starting quarterback. So a kid like Gunnar Hoak might be sitting there and saying, do I want to be the backup at Kentucky for my final 2 years? Or do I want to be the backup at Ohio State, where if I can beat out Chris Jugginoff, I'm one play away from being the starter. He's one play away from being the starter at Kentucky, though. That's why I think a name like Gunnar Hoak could be interesting, Bill.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, Dave, if you said, all right, well, we can have Gunnar Hoak now or we can keep looking, I think I would take Gunnar Hoak. I remember when he was at Dublin and, a high school quarterback and all, and I thought he was pretty darn good. And, he's a guy that, I would take him right now if I had that possibility. If you told me I can have him, well, you got him.
There you go. All right, let's move on and talk some recruiting, and not just recruiting transfer quarterbacks, some high school kids. You did your wildly popular What I'm Hearing column last night. We're going to get into some of the highlights of that. So two of the Buckeyes' top 2020 targets are Bijan Robinson, the running back, and then safety Lathan Ransom, their teammates at Tucson South Point Catholic High School. What's the latest on Robinson and Ransom, Bill?
Well, I think the best way to put it is that the Buckeyes have a shot at both of them. Robinson is at the top of the running back board as an absolute elite target that the staff wants, and he's going to make an official visit to Ohio State, and that gives the Buckeyes a shot. I think that as talking to sources and talking to Bijan Robinson and Lathan Ransom's coach, I think he put it best. Both of them have a serious interest in Ohio State. So Robinson, again, I've talked to a source about this. It looks like that basically are three schools that are really top-level schools as far as landing Robinson. Those three being Ohio State being one of them, Arizona, and Texas. And, people are sleeping a little bit on Arizona with him, Dave, because, he doesn't live far from there. DeMarco Murray is now the running backs coach. He's very comfortable with the staff. That's the school that wasn't talked about much, but that should be talked about. So, you get him on campus and you hope you sell him and you hope you land him is basically the situation.
Yeah, and I'll never fault kids for staying at home if they do. I mean, they're from Tucson. I mean, obviously that's right where the University of Arizona is located. So hopefully the Buckeyes can get some work done there, but I won't be surprised. I never fault kids if they stay home.
And then Dave, you also mentioned Ransom. I shouldn't neglect him. He's a kid it's a little bit more difficult to predict who his exact top choices are right now, other than to say, again, Ohio State is a serious contender for his services, I think. Jeff Hafley's recruiting him for the Buckeyes and doing a great job of that. And, again, he's expected to make an official visit to Ohio State. And, again, you get him on campus and you never know. He did have a great unofficial visit earlier this spring with the Buckeyes, and the next step is to get him back on campus.
Are those two a package deal?
Not necessarily. They would certainly entertain the thought and like to go to school. But again, package deals almost never happen. In the end, kids go where they feel is the best fit for themselves individually, and I think that's going to be the case. For instance, Bijan Robinson is highly considering Arizona. On the other hand, the chances of Lathan Ransom ending up at Arizona are very low. So they could end up at the same school, but no, they're going to make the best decision for themselves.
Well, I definitely won't have to fault Lathan Ransom for staying at home because he might not stay home. Probably won't stay home anyway, according to the dean. So there you go. Now, if you had to guess, let's look at running back recruiting for Ohio State for the 2020 class. I'm very intrigued about. I know they want to land two. Who do you think will be the first running back, if you had to guess? You can name more than one if you want to. You can give me a couple names. But who do you think is going to be the first running back Ohio State will land in this 2020 class?
That was pretty easy for me. I think it'll be DeMonte Traham from Akron-Hoban. He's going to make his decision most likely in May or June. Ohio State, I think, is the school to beat. There's no doubt in my mind Ohio State is the school to beat. And while a lot of people see him on defense, he's being recruited as a running back. I think he's a great athlete that can play defense. In fact, I love him as a linebacker, strong safety type player, but he's being recruited as a running back. He's a good running back, and I think he'll be the first running back off the board, so to speak, in the class for the Buckeyes.
I like it. And they do want to. Care to guess who the second might be?
Well, you'd love it if you're a member of Buckeye Nation, you'd love it to be either Bijan Robinson or Kendall Milton, and I think both of them are possibilities. Certainly I wouldn't, at this point, crystal ball either one of them to be a Buckeye, but they are possibilities. And the interesting thing, Dave, is once you get past those two, then let's say that Robinson goes elsewhere and let's say that Milton goes elsewhere. Who's the next guy? And that's kind of the big question mark right now. Would it be Michael Drennan, who I think is a great slot back prospect? It could be. You got Juton McLean, and you've got some others. Mayan Williams doesn't have an offer yet, but Ohio State's interested. And then there's some others as well. So that's kind of the question, of who would join DeMonte Traham if they don't get either Robinson or Milton. And then there's some out-of-state guys that certainly could be in that situation that end up picking Ohio State as well.
Final thing, Paris Johnson took an official visit to Georgia over the weekend, also has an official visit to LSU set up, as you talked about in what I am hearing. I guess the way I would describe it is, just from my perspective, Ohio State fans should definitely be concerned, but should not be jumping off bridges, though. But there's definitely a level of concern here. Just, how would you describe it?
Well, the best way to put it is he's still committed to Ohio State, and I talked to a source definitely in the know last night with what is going on with Paris Johnson, and he is still an Ohio State commitment, and that's the bottom line. Will he ultimately sign with Ohio State? We don't know that for sure right now. If I was going to say right now, I would say yes, he does still sign with Ohio State, but that's not a guarantee. As you know, he's doing visits and he's looking at other schools and looking at his options, but he's doing it as an Ohio State commitment, and Ohio State knows, that they're recruiting him still. Ryan Day is recruiting him, and Greg Studrawa still continues to recruit him. For instance, they know that he's visiting. It's nothing that he's doing behind their back, so to speak. That's not happening at all. The big thing is, obviously, is that they end up sealing the deal, because Paris Robinson is a guy that, as someone that I really trust's opinion told me not too long ago, he's a guy that the Cleveland Browns are going to be calling about one of these days. In about 3 or 4 years, the Browns or whoever else has a high draft choice is going to be calling about, which, again, Dave, we know we don't expect the Browns to have those high draft choices anymore, right?
Well, maybe, your Browns are going to be in good shape. So you're saying my Bengals could be in a very good spot to land Paris Johnson in the early part of the draft here in a few years.
Yeah, that's certainly not out of the question.
He could stay home and just stay in the Queen City. Maybe he'll have Dwayne Haskins as his quarterback. That's not going to happen, people. And people are wondering about Dwayne Haskins. He's not falling to 11, people. Don't buy the nonsensical smoke screens that are being sent up. Dwayne Haskins is not falling past 6, but I'll get on that tangent later in the week. Bill, great stuff. He is the Dean of Ohio State football recruiting. Bill Kurelic, thank you very much, Dean, and thank you to all listeners out there for tuning in to the show. I appreciate that as well. Hope everyone has a great day. Let's hear that Buckeye swag. Best damn band in the land.